I, 24, gave birth to my daughter 6 months ago, and it should have been the happiest moment in my life. When my daughter was born, her skin was very dark and looked like she could have 2 biological parents who were of African descent. My husband Jim, 26, fake name, was furious and accused me of cheating and left right then and there. He told everyone on both sides of the family what happened, made posts on social media and wanted a divorce. His family and a lot of our friends all called to say how upset they were at me and called me really nasty names. My mother was by my side the entire time, and I kept professing my innocence. Jim refused to pick me up from the hospital, threw my stuff out on the lawn, and changed the locks, so I had to stay with my parents. When my sister called to ask for the baby stuff, Jim texted me pictures of the bare nursery room and said he got rid of everything. He even destroyed my art studio. I like to paint, and the art I made, and told me my work would be too awful to sell. I was distraught and tried to focus on my baby. Weeks went by and Jim refused to speak to me directly and has never once asked about our child. Eventually he agreed to do a paternity, and he was 100% the father. No one could believe the results, and it was done again. Jim's the dad. Around that same time, one of Jim's cousins did the ancestry thing, and there was around 30% of African ancestry in the family. This, combined with a test, Jim's paternal great-grandmother admitted to having an affair around the time Jim's grandfather was born, and was because he could pass. She just assumed her husband was the father. Since then, Jim has been reaching out and everyone has come to apologize, and while it did feel good to feel vindicated, the damage has been done. I can't unhear or unsee all the horrible things that was said and done. Not just to me but to my child as well. Jim made some very racist remarks. Things that I thought he'd never say, and he did it so easily. Regardless of what our daughter looks like, I don't want her to be around that. What else will Jim and his family say or do the next time they get mad? How are they going to treat our daughter when she does something that upsets them? Jim has been begging for forgiveness. I said I needed time. He asked to see the baby and I let him, but I'm too afraid to physically hand her to him. He's repairing the nursery and keeps asking me what I would like, and I cry every time, saying we already had what I liked and some of the items that we had can't be replaced. He asked me if I still loved him, and I admitted that he showed me his worst self, and I don't know if I could live with that image. I didn't mean to be hurtful, but it's how I feel. My sister suggested couples therapy, but I don't feel like I should have to work to fix something that I didn't break. I've never cheated and have been 100% innocent in all of this the whole. Am I the idiot for not wanting to give Jim a second chance? Not the idiot. The initial reaction, while a bit ignorant given how much of a grab bag genetics can be, could probably be worked back from. Everything after that is way out of line. He turned family and friends against you before he even tried to verify if he was your daughter's father or not. He destroyed your stuff, including irreplaceable items. He threw you out and changed the locks. I don't think that there's any coming back from that one. Not the idiot. He showed his true colors and then DNA slapped him in the face. The most important thing is your well-being, both you and your baby, and happiness, so you should ask yourself, can you trust and be happy with him? If the answer is no, then stand your ground, gather all the evidence you have about what he did, because he will surely take you to court for visitation hours. After all, he is the father. Wow, all of this is major red flag behavior. You are absolutely not the idiot, and while I agree that couples counseling may be useful here in terms of having a mediator help facilitate a sense of empathy in Jim, he also needs to agree to see a therapist individually, because he clearly needs professional help. These are absolutely early signs of behavior that could escalate into pretty severe abuse, and he obviously has low impulse control and poor emotional regulation, if that was his reaction. In order to raise a child, you need to be able to help them manage their emotions. He's clearly not at that place, and even if you all do stay together, he needs to work on that for the sake of you and the baby. Not the idiot. Of course, any choice you make is okay, but I would seriously consider filing for divorce. He has shown how he will react to major stresses. What will happen when your daughter does something that majorly disappoints him? I personally would never be able to trust him again, knowing he is capable of treating you with such coldness and such a hard time. My husband's girl best friend, we'll call her Madison, has never liked me, for reasons I guess I will never know. Anyways, my fiance, we'll call him Michael, and I were having a hangout with a little bit of the friends that we shared. It was nearing the end of the night and Madison was the only friend left when Madison came out crying with Michael looking angry. I was around 9 months pregnant at the time. The thing that really caught my attention is when Michael called me a raging idiot. Myself being a hormonal pregnant woman started crying at the name calling. I asked through my tears what was going on, and he then proceeds to tell me about a text message I sent to Madison. In the message I told her to back off and about how Michael and I would not allow her near our child. I will admit that I did send this, but it was taken completely out of context. I only sent this text after the many racist text messages that she sent me talking about my child. I am biracial. Instead of hearing me out, Michael kicked me out of the house that we shared. His name was on the lease. Without arguing, I decided to leave, not wanting to start anything else. As I was walking out the door, I felt a cramp in my lower abdomen. I thought nothing of this because I was not due for another 3 weeks. When I flinched from the pain, Michael told me to stop faking. On the way to my mom's house, I felt a gush of water and immediately turned the car around so that I would make it to the hospital. While driving, I took out my phone to call Michael, but my call was quickly declined. At this point, I was in too much pain to call anyone else and arrived at the hospital. I pushed for 2 hours without an epidural and gave birth to a beautiful baby girl named Grace Noel. Giving birth without my fiancé by my side was the final straw for me. I decided to do something and post all the hurtful messages Madison sent me on Facebook. Maybe 45 min 1 hour later, Michael calls me asking me if we could talk. I inform him about my whereabouts and he shows up about 42 minutes later. He has tried to apologize multiple times, but I don't think I can forgive him. I went through the pain of pushing out an 8-pound baby by myself, all because he chose to believe his best friend without listening to his fiancé. Am I the idiot for not wanting to forgive him? Not the idiot. I would not be with someone who would talk to me that way and not even hear my side of the story. He made his choice and it's now your turn to make yours. I personally wouldn't forgive him, especially when he accused you of faking abdomen pain when you're pregnant with his child. And he kicked you out on top of it. Absolutely not. You deserve better than that. I don't think you're the idiot at all. Your fiancé's friend is, and so is your fiancé for believing her without hearing your side of the story. But I am really confused as to how he heard her side of the story first, because you hadn't told him what happened. It's his kid she's making racist remarks about too. Were you worried about how he'd react? Were you hoping he'd never find out? He not only missed the birth of your daughter, he called you grossly misogynistic names, believed his toxic friend, and wouldn't even listen to you, kicked you out of the house 9 months pregnant, and when you showed signs of pain from going into labor as you packed to go, accused you of faking. That he didn't ask for an explanation of why you told Madison to back off speaks volumes. He wouldn't take your calls as you rushed to the hospital, and you had to post his toxic friend's nasty messages on social media for him to realize what a jerk he was and talk to you. You should have refused the call. There are lots of things he's done that would warrant your decision not to forgive him, not just making you go through labor alone. Not the idiot. Not the idiot. Oh my god. Girl, I am so proud of you for going through this alone. Kick him to the curb and find someone better down the line. His reaction was ridiculous, especially because he wouldn't hear you out first. I am legit so angry at him for this. You take care of yourself and your baby girl. Congratulations and don't feel sorry. I always had good grades in high school, was home on time, cleaned the house, etc. I never had problems with my parents before this. I went to med school, still living with parents when I was 20. I dated someone who was 23. We'll call him Jay. Dad was against this because B does not believe in dating people far older than you, so like don't date far from your own age, and says I cannot date Jay. Argument breaks out. Dad says it's his house, so either I agree or I move out. I say it's not fair as Jay has a job, goes to college, has future plans, etc. Dad kicks me out. Mom agrees with his decision. Little bro was only 14 at the time. I moved with Jay. His family was supportive, helped me with my college. I went to another college due to financial reasons, finished my required years, but still kept in touch with my little bro. Years later, me and Jay, with the help of his parents, got a small house. Like really small, but I'm happy with it. I ended up giving birth to a sweet baby girl. I let my little bro know that he could come see her when he was able to. He came a few times. The day, bro came to see the baby and asked when I was going to let mom and dad see her since they wanted to reconnect. I said never and that I wasn't going to forgive them. Bro says I'm being unreasonable as they were just strict and trying to protect me. I say that's bullshit because dad shouldn't have kicked me out over age. Bro says I should at least let mom come because she didn't want to agree with it. I say mom was able to do something but didn't, but that bro's situation was different because he was only 15. Bro is upset because he says mom and dad regret their decision and just want to reconnect and that I am dragging this entire situation. I told him that if he thinks I'm dragging it out then he can stay out of my life too. He's angry and says that I need to move on and that I shouldn't be withholding them from seeing their grandchild. I say that they disowned me and so have no grandchild from a daughter that doesn't exist. Am I the idiot? I don't hate my bro and I get what he is saying, but I just have a resentment for my parents. It's not like I had a baby just to put it against them, but my lil bro thinks I'm going go die on a hill with them for something done several years ago, and it's petty. I'm curious on what Reddit thinks. I want a relationship with my bro, just not my mom and dad. If your parents want to reconcile they can reach out themselves, rather than sending a messenger. They owe you a massive apology. You're not the one that's dying on this hill, they're the ones that haven't made amends for their actions. They made a huge, life-altering mistake, and just because they regret it now doesn't mean they don't have to take responsibility for it. They kicked you out for dating a guy 3 years older than you, which in my opinion is absurd. It sounds more like they wanted to control you, and when they couldn't they kicked you to the curb. Since then it doesn't sound like they have reached out and tried to make amends at all. Instead your brother is giving you a guilt trip about it. What have they done that suggests they deserve a second chance? Not the idiot, but don't alienate your brother over this. He's in a difficult position. It's up to you whether you want to reconcile with your parents. It doesn't sound like they're actually sorry at this point, your brother just wants everyone to get along, which is understandable. Everyone sucks here. Except your bro. And I'm going with you're the idiot mostly for telling your brother that he can leave your life too. He's just trying to get his family to get along again. He's trying to be a diplomat in a standoff. You don't need to forgive your parents or anything over a 3-year age gap. But you should apologize to your brother. Not the idiot. You have every right to be angry. You have every right to decide who your child sees and who it doesn't. If I were you, I'd tell your brother that this is your kid and your decisions are to be respected and not discussed any further unless he wants to damage the relationship you guys have maintained. My wife went into labor a few weeks earlier than expected and she ended up giving birth at the hospital. The day it happened she told me that she was in the hospital and needed me, however I had just left the house an half-hour prior to go see my father who was likely about to die. He did a few hours after I arrived. I decided to see my father one last time and I felt like it was more important than seeing my child's birth because I will raise him and see him every day for the next 18 years and I really need to say some things to my father before he dies. My wife and the rest of her family are pissed at me and said that birth is one of the most important parts of our lives and I needed to be there to support my wife and see the child. Obviously I didn't want this shit to happen, but I felt seeing my father for the last time was important, especially since I hadn't seen him in weeks and we weren't on good terms then, which we eventually resolved thankfully. If you'd like to provide any advice you're welcome to, as I could use some, but I'm mainly here for judgment. This was very likely the hardest decision you will ever have to make. I don't think there is even an answer for what the right thing to do was. Your wife was scared and needed you during labor, your father was dying, and you wanted to see him one last time. You did what you could with an absolutely shit scenario. You would have had regret, no matter what choice you made. Just make it up to your wife by making sure she gets lots of sleep and yummy snacks while she's taking care of that baby. She will come around. No idiots here, but your comment that you get to see your kid every day for the next 18 years makes me understand why your wife is upset. Being there for the birth is not about the baby, but being there for your wife. You let her down. You may have had good reason for doing so, but by justifying it as, I get to see the kid every day, you are minimizing how your choice impacted her. I understand wanting to be with your dad during his final hours. That moment was really important to you. However, I can understand your wife being hurt that you weren't with her. Going into an early labor that you're not fully prepared for can be scary and potentially dangerous, depending on how early several weeks is and the condition of the baby. Personally, I think I would try to be understanding, but I would still be deeply hurt if it happened to me. No idiots here. You needed to be there with your wife. You needed to be there with your dad. Literally a life and death situation. You could only be in one place. I understand why you chose to be at your father's deathbed. But you owe your wife big time, because birth isn't about the baby as much as it is supporting your partner in the process.